Hello, and welcome to the Drive Registration System training for hospitals and birthing facilities. In order to be able to access Drive, you will need to register as a user through the Access Indiana site by going to www.in.gov/access. Access Indiana is a site where you will use a single sign-on and be able to access Drive, as well as many of the other state websites such as the BMV, DNR, the Indiana Department of Revenue, and so on. Follow the instructions on how to sign up for the account, and once registered, this will be the way you access the Drive system. When you log into the Access Indiana portal, you will see the main page, or the dashboard as it is referenced. There will be an icon on the dashboard titled Drive for you to click on to be taken to the Drive homepage. You will also be able to bookmark the Drive site as any other most commonly used site for quicker navigation to them. There are a few key points that I would like to mention before the training begins. The state file number and local file number will be assigned concurrently. This means that no longer will the LHDs or the Indiana Department of Health have to run a batching process to complete the registration of records. They will be registered instantly once completed, approved, and affirmed, thus speeding up the processing time so registration is more timely, and that certified copies of records can be provided as needed. Birth records entered from the hospitals or birthing facilities that will not require a PA to be done will automatically registered. Birth records that will have PAs associated with them will be in queues for the local health departments to be able to approve and affirm before the registration is complete. Items can be attached directly to the records. The paternity affidavits that are done by the hospitals will be uploaded and attached to the record, where the local health department can then review it for the approval and affirmation processes. This will allow the local health department to reject a part of the record that may be incorrect, which will then send a notification to the hospital user so they can go back into the record and fix the error. This enables errors to be corrected within the 72-hour time frame that the hospital is allowed. Other documentation needed for any amendments or anything that a user feels important, such as lab reports, worksheets, etc., can be attached. Anyone who has access to that particular record would then be able to see the documents. Notifications will be sent and received when changes are made or if action is needed to the record in which one is affiliated. The notifications will go to the external email addresses that the user sets up on their profile, and there is also a message component to Drive that displays all messages associated with your user ID. You can access messages from the homepage as well as within a record. So let's begin. When you click on the Drive icon from Access Indiana, you will be taken to the home page. That is what I have displayed on the screen. Those users that are associated with multiple facilities would first get a page to select the particular facility where the event took place, and once it's selected, then this home page would display. At the top of the page, you will see your user ID right next to the logout button. And then over to the left, you will see the facility that you are associated with. Below that, you will see a menu bar. Depending on the level of permissions that one may have, will determine all of the menus that would be available to them. Under the main menu, you have drop-downs for the home page, your user profile, your messages, and the logout button. By clicking the messages from the drop-down, the message page displays. It will show who the message is from, the subject matter, the detailed message, and the date and time sent. It also gives the ability, in most cases, to go directly to the record by just simply clicking on the name within the message detail. The Life Events menu will be where you will go to locate any of your cases or to start and edit a new case. The Queues menu will be where you will find records that will need some type of action taken on them. You will see a variety of queues that contain the records that are in various stages of the registration process. The Reports menu have several reports in it, and several are available. So if you don't see the one that you need, please submit a request, as there may be one already set up for what you need, or there may be a way to create one. The Forms menu will contain any fillable forms if applicable, and then you also have a Help menu. Now down below, you will see what are called fast links. The fast links are created once you access something from one of the menu items above. So it's just a quick access to where you're needing to go without having to continually go up to the menu bar and click on the drop downs. As I displayed accessing your messages from the drop down, you will notice you have a fast link right here that gives you the amount of new messages you have in there. And you can simply click on the messages in that fast link and you will see it takes you to the same page as it did through the drop down. Going back to the Life Events menu, when you click the birth and the locate case, the page will display with several fields that can be used to conduct and refine your search. Remember that the more information entered, the quicker and the more refined your search will be. It is also possible that by not entering enough information, the system may lag and there may be too much time taken in searching that record and you may receive a timeout message. Anywhere that you have a date field to enter, if you notice down below, it displays a format. That is a format that the drive system requires. You can either go to that field and enter the date as the format displays, or if you enter any type of a valid date format and hit Tab, you will notice that it will convert it into the format that's required. You also will have calendar icons that you can click on and select the date from there, and it will populate it into that field. For those of you that have function keys with your computer systems, you can simply hit the F12 button and it will populate the current date. If you are searching for a name, once you type in a name, you will notice down below next to the search button, you will have a SoundX button. That is an additional search function to where if you click SoundX, it will search for any name that sounds like the name that you put into one of those fields. By putting in a date and clicking search, you will notice a search page pulls up and you have a list of all the searches based on the fields that you filled out. We'll display a case ID. The case ID is an electronic number that's assigned by the drive system. It's an internal number. It is not to be confused with the state file number or the local file number. You have a child's name. You have the date of birth, the sex, the place of birth. You also have a preview button at the end here. When you click on the preview button, what it does is it will drop down below a short previewed version of the record that you selected to where you can look at it and see if that's in fact the record you want to enter. And if so, you can go in and simply select it or click on the name and it will take you right into the record. You also notice you have a little icon over here or an indicator. This particular indicator means that there is a comment that has been put within that particular record. And I will explain that further into the training. So I'm simply going to select the child's name. When you get into the record, you will notice you have a top line here. The first number is your case ID number. The second number is your state file number. So once a record is registered, it will have the state file number displayed. You will have your child's name and the date of birth. And then if there's been any amendment done to the record, you will see a message such as this that says amendment exists. The next line is your status bar or your status string. And you'll notice that you have different statuses, one that applies to the legal information, which is your child and parent information. You'll also see a status that applies to the medical information. And in this case, you can see that this record has been certified and registered. If you notice over here to the left, you will also see individual links to each individual page of the record. The menu bar, your top line of your record, and your status string, as well as your links here to the side, will display throughout the entire record. Each individual page will have these buttons down below. The Validate Page button will save the information that has been entered on the page, and it will also run an edit check of the record to validate that all the fields are properly completed. Once this is clicked, it changes the status stream. So when you begin a record, your status stream is going to say new event, as I will show you that here in a little bit. Once the Validate Page button has been selected, it changes that status. What it will also do is if it finds anything that fails in the edit check, it will give indicators next to the particular page that it applies to. Those indicators will be either a red check mark or a yellow circle. A red check mark indicates a hard edit rule failure, and a yellow check mark indicates a soft edit rule failure. And the difference between those is the red edit rule failures must be fixed before you will be able to completely put this record through the procedure or through the registration process. If it's a yellow indicator, then that means that there's something within that page that, although may be required, also has given an opportunity to override that edit rule failure, which will then allow you to complete the record and register the record. And in that case, it lists the status as having an exception. So that's why you see with exceptions here. When the Validate Page is run and the edit rule check is done, it also highlights the individual field in the color that corresponds with the indicator. So your red X marks are going to have the field highlighted in red, and the yellow circle will have the field highlighted in yellow. And anything that passes is going to have a green check mark. I will show you all these functions here in a little bit. Also with that validating page, if it does have an edit rule failure, it will display it down here below, and it will give you the opportunity to either override it or to fix it, depending on what type of failure it is. The next button will save the page that you're on, and it will automatically advance you to the next page of the record. It will not, however, run a validation check again. It just simply saves the information and lets you move on. The clear button will clear out any information that you have entered after a prior save. The save button will simply save the page that you're on. It also generally saves the entire record. So if you started a record and you got called away for some reason, you would simply hit save and log out, and then you would be able to come back in and access your record by going through the locate case function. Your return button will take you to the page previous from this page. You have some links under the other links section. The amendment link is visible to you. However, you will not be using that. Any amendments to a record will be done through the local health department or through the Indiana Department of Health. However, if there have been any amendments done to this record, you would be able to go up here to the amendment list listed under the registrar information and select that, and it will pull up a grid of any type of amendments that were done to that record. That will be visible to you as long as you are the person that entered the record. The attachment link is where you're going to be attaching all your documents. That is where the paternity affidavit is going to be attached. Other examples are your lab reports, the birth worksheets, or anything else that you feel that you need to be part of the record. The birth death linkage does just that. It will link a birth record to a death record. The print form link is where you will find all the forms associated with the record. The comments link is for any comments that need to be added to the record. So if there's a certain comment that you want everybody that's associated with this record to see, you would simply go into your comments and add it. As you see in this case, there's already been a comment made, shows it in a grid, gives you the opportunity to edit it or delete it. It tells you what the comment is about. And it also gives you the availability to add a new comment by simply clicking New Comment, selecting the type, entering a comment, and then clicking Save. And once you do that, it will add it to this grid. The Validate Registration link down here does the same thing that the Validate Page button does. However, what it does will display all of the edit rule failures all on one page, as opposed to doing it on each individual page as the Validate Page button does. You'll also notice under Other Registries, you have an immunization link. This is a new feature, and it will allow the availability to add the new immunizations that are given at the time the child is born. So when you click on New Immunization, you will notice that it's got the hepatitis B vaccine information, and you would simply just go in and enter the information, whether they received it or not, and if so, it's going to open up the fields for you to fill in the date administered and the manufacturer and so on. So a few more items to bring to your attention. You will still be using the Certificate of Live Birth worksheet as you normally do, but it has been reformatted to fit the flow of the Drive system. All the births that occur to parents who are married or for those that are born to unwed mothers that will not be executing a paternity affidavit, will automatically register. So the local health department will not need to do any type of an approval process on those. For the records that occur to unwed parents and the paternity affidavit will be executed at the hospital, the LHD will still need to go through the approval and affirmation process. The way that works right now, they have to wait until they receive the hard copy of the paternity affidavit from the hospital, and then they'll be able to accept the record. Drive will now allow the PA to be printed. The parents will sign it. The notary information will be completed. And then the hospital will be able to scan and upload that and attach it to the record. So when the registration moves over towards the local health department side of things, they would just pull it out of a queue. They would be able to go to the attachment, look at that PA, and depending on whether everything is correct or not, will determine on whether they accept it. They will have the availability to reject any portion of the record. So if they see something wrong with the paternity affidavit, they would be able to reject it. And then what happens is it will notify the user, both in their external email, as well as in the message portion of the drive. And it will tell that user that that has been rejected and give the reason why. Then you'll be able to go in and you'll be able to fix the errors and send it back over to the local health departments for them to be able to approve. This enables the hospital to be able to make any corrections needed within the 72-hour time frame that the hospitals are allowed. That then also reduces the inconvenience and the cost that the parents would have incurred in having to go to the local health department and have a new one created. You can then go ahead and send the original paternity affidavits to the local health departments. However, by attaching it to the record, it doesn't hold up the process in being able to get the record certified and registered so that records can be issued. So let's walk through completing a record. You do not have to go back to a home page if you are actually in a record. You would simply go to Life Events, Birth, and start Edit New Case. And if you notice, this looks just like the Locate Case page that we were on. However, you will have a few fields that are highlighted in red. Those fields are required in order to be able to move forward with the search. And what it does is when you put in the information, it's going to do a duplicate search to check and make sure that there's not already a record that's been started on this child. You can enter as much information as you'd like, but you do have to enter what is required, highlighted by both the red arrow indicators and the outline fields in red. So we'll enter a last name. And just so you know, if you are doing a paternity affidavit on this child, which is what I'm going to demonstrate, you would put the child's last name as what it will be once the paternity affidavit is completed. If this was going to be a birth that you were registering for a married couple, you're obviously going to enter the last name that the married couple decides they want that child to have. And if you're entering it for a birth of an unwed mother who's not doing a paternity affidavit, then you must give that child the legal last name of the mother. So in this case, we're going to do one that we're going to attach a paternity affidavit to. So the last name is going to be that of the father. We're going to type in the father's last name and tab over, or you can simply use your mouse and click the field that you need to go to next. In this case, I'm going to hit the F12 button, which is going to put today's current date in. and tab over. And if you want, you can select the M, which will automatically pop up male, the F, which will do female, or you can click on the drop down. We also do have the not yet determined feature. So when you enter that information, you click search, and you're going to get this birth search result page. Now, if it would have found a record, it would display that record in the grid up here, and it would be able to give you the opportunity to preview it to see if that is in fact the same record you're trying to enter. And if not, it will give you the opportunity to start a new case. In this case, it did not find anything that matched the criteria that was entered. So you can either start a new case, or you can click the new search, which will take you back to the search page. However, it does retain the information that you have put in there. You will be able to go in there and change it if needed. So I'm going to click search again, and I'm going to start new case. So if you notice, you have your case ID number up here, which is your electronic number that the drive system assigns to it. We have the last name of the child and the date of the event. So the last name of the child, date of the event, and then down here below, it also populates the date of the event, and the sex of the child. It pulls that information and automatically puts that as well as the last name into the fields. And it gives you the opportunity to begin the record from here. On the status stream, you'll also know it starts with new event, and new event, it's on there twice because the first new event applies to the child and the mother information, or the mother parent information. The second new event applies to the medical information. And then it does show that it's uncertified and not registered. If you notice in this case, we do not have any father pages listed here. Those are not going to show until you get to the marital status page and select the status at that time. So to speed up the process today, I've already created a record. I'm going to go in and I'm going to locate that record. And I started this record with the last name of Flanagan. Now, I have already ran a validation check on this prior to this training today, so that is why you're going to see the status as it is. So it's showing the legal is invalid and the medical is invalid. It's not certified, it's not registered. And then the legal pending and medical pending just tells you those are working queues. So we know that there's legal information and medical information that still needs to be filled out to be able to finish processing this record. The error indicators are not showing here to the side yet because we just went in to locate the case. I purposely left out the child's first name as well as the Social Security number question, but I did go ahead and fill in the time of birth information. And I wanted to show you what it does when you click Validate Page. So from here, I'm going to validate the page. And this is where your edit rule failures have found on a few fields. So you'll notice the child's first name is in yellow. That's a soft edit rule failure. If you go down below, it gives you the error message result. It tells you the child's first name can't be left blank and to enter a first name. When you go over here, you'll see that there is an empty box that you can click on that will put a check mark in there. And you can check mark that and click Save Overrides. And it will allow you to complete this record without putting any information in there as a first name. If you notice, the red highlighted is the hard edit rule failure. You must fill that information in before this record will be able to be registered. So the second error message applies to that hard edit rule failure in red. It's an invalid value for the Social Security number requested for child. You'll notice it does not give you that box to be able to let you override that. So you must fix it. And you can do that in a couple of ways. If you notice, my cursor is in the first name field. If I click the Fix button that's under Go To Field, it will automatically take that cursor and put it in the field that needs corrected. If I click the Fix button under Pop-up, it will give you a pop-up screen and you can select the answer from there. If you're in the first name field or any other field within that record, you can simply just go to the field, click on it, and change the answer from there. I am going to go ahead and enter a name for this child. I'm going to uncheck the override box, and I'm going to validate the page. Now, if you notice, I have a red or a yellow indicator next to the child. I went ahead and unchecked the override and revalidated. However, you need to uncheck it and click Save Overrides prior to validating in order for that to be removed. Once you have fixed your errors and you revalidated the page, you'll notice that the highlight goes away and our indicator over here changed from a red X to a green check mark, which means this page has now passed all of the validation checks and you can continue on. We're going to select Next, and it brings us to the mother-parent page. I've already given the mother a name. Got her name is Emily Nasser. You'll notice that is different than what I gave the child's name. Once again, we're doing a paternity affidavit on that, so the child's name is that of the father that we're going to be adding. So the mother's name is Emily Nasser, and you'll see that there's a Copy Current Legal Name button here, that if you select that, it will drop that to the information below. I've entered a date of birth in there. This arrow next to it will calculate the age of the mother and shows she's 25 years old. Social Security number, if you do not have one, if you select none, it populates all zeros. If you select unknown, it populates all nines. I'm going to go ahead and give it a Social Security number and clear that out of the radio button selected there. Mother-parent workplace. Throughout the record, you will see this house icon. What that will do is it will pull up a pop-up that gives you the opportunity to select from a list of values when it comes to the country, the state, the county, and city. We're going to go to the state. We'll pick Indiana. We'll choose Marion County. And choose Indianapolis. Once you hit select, it populates that information directly into the field. Now, in most cases, you're going to know this information as you're going to have the worksheet in front of you. So you can simply just type that in there. And once you start typing the word, you'll see that a drop-down will show up with a list of values that you can select. And you can select what applies. You can also type the entire word out and hit the tab button, and it will enter the information that you've entered, and it will take away the list of value display. Now, from here, you can also validate the page again. And you'll notice over here that now we have a green check mark by the mother parent page. We're going to select next, and we're on the mother parent address. Now I've gone ahead and I've entered the address in here. However, I do need to let you know that when home births occur and those children are brought to the hospitals are actually going to not record that record because it occurred at the home. That's going to be done at the local health department. If that child was born en route, if that child was unloaded at the hospital, you are going to be recording that birth. So under the mother parent address, I've already entered the mother's address in there. And you'll notice down below it says the mailing address, same as residence address. It gives you a box you can check, and it will pull that information down for you. The mother's telephone numbers are not required. However, if you have them, feel free to enter them. And from here, I'm just going to select next. Once you're more comfortable with the system and you're doing more of these on a regular basis, you may find that it's quicker to just go through each individual page, enter the information, and just select next all the way through until you get down to the very end or close to the end, and then you can validate. And when you do that, you'll get your indicators over here showing that you might need to go back to a page and fix something on that page. I'm going to select next. And when you notice when I do that, this check or this indicator still shows a red X because that's not going to change until you revalidate. So I've gone to the next page. I'm on the education. I've gone ahead and entered the mother's education information. We'll click next again. Here's the mother health information. So I've entered all the information that applies. The tobacco and nicotine use per day before and during pregnancy. If you notice, I answered it no, which grays out all the information below. If you answer it yes, it's going to allow you to put the information in there that's needed. Down below have been some additional questions that have been added to the worksheet for statistic purposes. It will let you go ahead and save this record and complete this record without filling that information in, and it will not give you any kind of an edit rule failure on that. So if you notice, when I go to validate this page, I don't have any yellow highlighted fields there, and it does go ahead and give me a green check mark, meaning this page has passed the validation check. So we click next, and it brings us to our marital status page. So mother, we're going to list as not married. If you notice down here, the paternity information question shows non-applicable. Once you choose no to the biological father, it opens that up to be able to be answered. We're going to answer that question yes. We're going to hit next. If you notice by hitting next, it gives you the father-parent pages to fill out. So you're going to go in and you're going to fill in the father's information. So we've got a father that we're entering. We're going to tab, click the arrow, which calculates his age, give him a social security number. You also have the availability to click this button that says same as mother's address. If he has not got the same address, you would just simply enter that information down below. So we're going to click the check the empty box so that it populates the mother's address down there. Then you also have the father, parent, birthplace. That you can enter. And you've filled out the father, parent page. Now, if you notice, once we went ahead and selected the marital status and that we were going to be completing a PA, it now added a status that a PA is pending. So we've added the father information. We're going to click next. We'll give him an occupation. I'm going to type B, which will automatically bring up bachelor's degree, but you can go ahead and select the drop down if you need to. We're going to take a couple of selections here. Anything that would have other, when you select it, it will give you additional boxes to specify that particular item. And from here, I'm going to validate the page. If you notice now, it went ahead and took the red X away from the marital status and gave it a check mark, so we know we're good on those pages. Click Next. Here's your informant page. You can select father, mother, or other. When you select the mother or father, it will pull that information from their page and directly put it into the fields that apply. If you select other, you will enter the information yourself. You will also need to specify over here as to who that other person would be, whether it be a grandmother or a friend. We're going to select Next. Now, based on your user ID in your facility, the place of birth is automatically going to populate with that facility. So this facility is Adams Memorial Hospital, so it went ahead and automatically populated the facility name and address, so you won't have to add any additional information in there. Click Next. You've got your prenatal page, so you'll answer all of your questions. Click Next. You have your pregnancy factor page. You would check all that applies. Under infections tested, if you select yes, you're going to have to give the answer on when it was most recently performed, as well as the date. If you select no to the question, you're going to have to give a reason why. This is a new feature here. The mother tested for group B strep, so you will have to answer that question as well. Your infections and your obstetric procedure information. We're going to click Next. We've got our labor questions. Select Next. We have our method of delivery questions. We'll select Next. The newborn information. If you notice, it will allow letters to be a part of any of the numbers. Under the infant birth weight, you will either need to put pounds and ounces or grams. You cannot put both. If you tried to put in grams of any kind and hit Tab, it's going to erase the pounds that are entered. your APGAR score, your gestation. Here's your plurality. You can select what applies. You'll notice the birth order is grayed out. If you would select a multiple birth, then it opens that up to where you can tell whether that was the first, second, third child, and etc. If it's not a single birth, number of infants in the delivery born alive, you would also answer that question. So in this case, we're going to keep it a single birth. Here's your infant living at time of report question. It is possible a child would be born alive, but at the time you're doing the report, they have passed away, so answer that accordingly. I'm going to click Next. You have your newborn factor pages. Okay. From here, I'm going to validate the page. We have all of our pages up to the attendant and certifier page, all passing with green check marks. Now, once you have entered the father-parent information, you could have gone back to the marital status page, and you'll notice you see the Print PA button. It is available there as well as under the print forms. If you notice it here. We're going to go to the marital status page and we're going to click Print PA. It will give you a PDF to open, and once you open that PA, you will be able to see that the father's information has been added. It shows that the baby was born as Thomas Nasser. The father's information is populated here as well as the mother from the record. And you'll see down here where the child's name is going to be Flanagan. So you're going to print this PA, and in this case I'm going to just save it to my desktop. So in your case, you're going to print it, and you're going to have the parents sign it. You're going to have the notary do their thing. Then you're going to scan it, and you're going to attach it, whether it be to your desktop or to a file that you have or a folder you have set up in your system. And once you have that paternity affidavit all ready, signed, sealed, and ready to go, you're going to click Attachments. You're going to click New Attachment. You can select Documentary Evidence. You're going to browse and find where you have put that attachment, so it works just like attaching anything else that you would do. I've found my PA. I'm going to click Save. And you'll notice it puts that PA in a grid here. Gives you the availability to view it if you'd like. You can also add a new attachment at this time. But from here, we're going to go ahead and close it. Now, if you look down here, it shows where there's an attachment to this record. Okay. So now we have our legal valid and our medical is invalid because we don't have our attendance certifier filled out yet. Still shows uncertified, not registered. Medical pending, PA pending. From here, excuse me, we will click attendance certifier. You'll notice that we have some edit rule failures on here. And that was due to the fact that we had run the validation page check throughout the record. So it did find some on this page because we hadn't had anything filled in yet. So now we're at the attendant at birth. And you'll notice we have a magnifying glass here that if you select, brings up a lookup attendant. The database will be transferred over from the old system. So any attendants that are in the system, you can type in the last name and it will pull up their name. You'll see I typed in the last name, shows it in a grid. You can select the button here and it will populate that information in those fields. We have what's called wildcards that you can use, the percent sign. If you just simply put a percent sign in and click search, it's going to pull up all the attendants that we have in the system. You can use that percent sign with a few other letters. If you put the percent sign first and a few letters after and click search, it's going to pull up any name in there that has those letters in it, and it's going to look for any letters that are preceding that, and it will pull those up in a list for you to choose from. You can also put the percent sign after the letters and click search. Does the same thing, only now it's going to look at those two letters and anything after it. You can also put the percent sign before and after, or what we call using them as bookends. Put a few letters in there. You must put in at least 2 letters. Click the search. It's going to look for anything that has those letters in it and anything preceding it or anything that's after it. So you'll see it's brought up several. That attendant is not in there, it will allow you to enter that information in. So I'm going to select a birth attendant. You'll see it populates that information in there. Down below under the certifier, it gives you the same opportunity to look that up using that lookup tool. However, you'll notice that it's already populated based on the user ID. So if you are the one that's allowed to certify the record and you are logged in entering that record, it's automatically going to populate your information down here. Now from here, I'm going to certify, or I'm going to validate the page. And I want you to pay attention to the side over here. Once I validate, we show that there's error messages. We have an attendant title is invalid, the attendant's first name is invalid, and the attendant's last name is invalid. Did not take our selection. I'm going to enter another piece of information in there. We're going to validate it. And it accepted that piece of information. Now you'll notice it opened up a certify link. You'll click on that certify link and it'll open up the affirmation page. And if you notice off to the side, in order to be able to affirm that, you're going to have to first get a code. You simply select send code. And it usually takes just a few seconds, maybe up to 30, before the code goes to your email. Once you get that code, you enter it in and click verify code, and you'll notice that it's been authenticated. You can then go over, click that box, and it'll put a check mark in it, and click affirm. You'll notice we have a check mark by certify, and now our status is reading that it's legally valid, medical valid, it's certified. However, it's not registered, and it's needing registration approval and affirmation by the local health department. So the local health departments then will have these records, this record and any other record that has a PA pending in their queue, and they will go in and they will look at the PA attached to this record, and if it's okay, they will accept that record. And if you look under the messages, you will have a message telling that a PA has been approved. So once this particular record is approved, you'll get a message similar to this, only using the name of the record that we currently entered. I have a little difficulty here. Let me get back to the record here. We'll go into our record. Once the local health department approves it, the red here that says PA pending will change to just PA. You will see these two statuses disappear, and you will see the not registered go to registered. If the local health department rejects any portion of the record, you would get that message, and it'll say something was wrong, whether it be a spelling error or something was omitted that should have been there. You'll simply click on the link in that message, which will take you into this record. You go down to Certify, and you'll notice that there is an Unaffirm button. When you click the Unaffirm button, it will give you a message. Are you sure you wish to unaffirm the registration? You'll select OK. You'll notice your Certify link went away here, and it's back to being uncertified. You can then go in, whatever applied to that message, can go in and change it. We'll revalidate. All we've done is entered a different medical record number, although that's not going to be a rejection of a paternity. But whatever was the reason for rejecting, you're going to go and you're going to change it. Once you revalidate, it's going to give you your Certify link again that you'll click on, and you'll notice that it's already been authenticated. As long as you stay in the record, or stay in the Drive system, I should say, without logging out or without it timing out on you, you won't have to enter another code. However, if you have to get out of the system for some reason, or if it times you out and automatically logs you out, then you will have to go ahead and select another code to be sent to you. And in this case, we didn't get out. So you just simply have to go click Certify and Affirm. And you'll see it changes your status back to the way it was before. You will need to remember, by changing anything on that paternity affidavit, you will have to have the parents go in and sign a new PA, and you will have to upload that and attach it to this document so that the local health department will have it to review. So once that's done, then you would just be able to mail that hard copy of the PA to the local health department, but they don't have to wait on it in order for this to follow through with the registration process. So as long as your PA that you had sent over as an attachment has been reviewed by the health department and accepted, once they accept it, it will register. Your approval and your affirmation statuses here will be gone, and it'll show PA, and that record is good to go, and the parents will be able to get their birth certificate for their child issued without having to wait maybe a week or two. You can go through these pages at any time throughout the record. Even after the record is registered, you will be able to still access this record as you were the one that created it in the first place. If you failed to list any immunizations at the time you were registering the record, you still will be able to go in there, even after the record has been registered, and put those immunizations in there. This concludes the hospital and birthing facility training for the DRIVE system. Please refer to the user guides as needed. And if you have any questions or concern, you can submit an email to drive@isdh.in.gov. Once again, that's drive@isdh.in.gov. Thank you.